Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar. I see a lot of people are still coming in. Let me say an official welcome to each and every one of you on behalf of our CEO, Ms. Alison Demas, founder and CEO, and the management and staff of Media InSite Limited. We say welcome to you wherever you're joining us from this morning. I know we have a lot of regional partners and clients joining us this morning. So we are so happy that you can join us this morning for this, what can only be touted as one of the most promising sessions on the Q4 holiday season to Carnival media trends that shape consumer behavior in 2026. And so as you come in, I am going to just welcome you briefly. My name is Christy Kalising, and I am a media specialist and key account executive here at Media InSite. And it is truly my pleasure to be your host for this morning's session. So while I'm going to give you all just a couple minutes to settle in, I am going to invite you to head on over to our chat box and just drop your flag or which company you're representing this morning. Say a quick hello, and we shall begin the official proceedings in a few minutes. But I just want you all to get settled and give you a few minutes to do so as well. What I can guarantee you this morning is that you will find your time with us very well spent, as we are joined by three lovely panelists who are very enthusiastic and eager to share their knowledge with us on Q4 holiday season to Carnival. And of course, we know we are in the Carnival spirit in Trinidad and Tobago. Some might say this has started immediately after Boxing Day, but we'll hear what the experts has to say about that. So when I say that this webinar promises to be a real treat, trust me when I say it's going to be a game changer. And our speakers will do their utmost best to tell us how holiday advertising influences consumer decision making, how brands can track competitor activity and media investment in real time. And not only that, but how you can gain insights to optimize Q4 and Carnival campaign strategies. And of course, you will hear the expert perspectives, of course, backed by what we are specialized in here at Media InSite, or data, market, and media intelligence. So before we begin, I just want to do a couple housekeeping announcements. I'm going to ask everyone to mute their mics and ensure that your cameras are off throughout the session. Of course, we love an engaged audience, and I am sure you all will have a lot of questions. Keep in mind that our panelists love answering questions. So I'm going to ask you during the session to type your questions in the chat box to the bottom of the screen. And we'll also be running a couple polls during this session, so be sure to look out for that as well. So that is it for housekeeping announcements from my end. Once again, welcome one and all officially to our Q4 holiday season to Carnival webinar. It aims to explain to you the media trends that shape consumer behavior in 2026, of course, coming out of a very busy 2025 Q4. I mean, we all know how important the media trends are for us, especially in the marketing and media side of things. So I think on that note, we are ready to begin once again. The recording of the session will be available at the end of the session. So I encourage you to sit back if you have a cup of tea, if you probably didn't have breakfast as yet. You're probably late on that, but we promise you to give you what can only be said to be very palatable information this morning. And I do hope that you find this morning's session very interesting and something that everyone can take away something from it at least. All right. So once again, on behalf of our CEO, Alison Demas, and the management and staff of Media InSite, welcome one and all. And of course, this morning's session is actually a very special one because we step into our 15-year anniversary, or as we like to call it here at Media InSite, our birthday. It's our birthday this year, and we're celebrating 15 years. So Q4 is one of the most competitive advertising periods in the Caribbean, and I'm sure you all will agree with that when I say it's when brands are fighting for attention during Christmas, year-end sales, and major cultural moments. All the while consumer behavior is already shifting towards Trinidad Carnival and beyond because we know that we are the mecca of Carnival. And as such, while yes, we're focused on Christmas campaigns, we always tend to keep Carnival at the side of our brains. It's like, I need to go to this fete. I want to go to at least, and I'm sure most of you can agree with me when I say that we sometimes budget ourselves. I need to go to one all inclusive. I need to go to a Juve party. You know, we have these things already in mind as we step into the new year. So what happens in these final months of the year, it just doesn't just drive short-term results, but it sets the tone for how brands perform well into Q1 and beyond. And at Media Insight, our role helps brands to see clearly in crowded markets and through our services such as media monitoring, ad monitoring, and our recently added media analysts, we help you to understand not just where the ads ran, but what worked and what didn't and why. And so we'll dive into that this morning. This is very significant data as it is critical when, of course, we know budgets are sometimes under pressure and competition is at its peak. Now, we let the data speak for itself. Of course, we are best at providing data and the analysis of data. So we'll go into that in our first speaker this morning, our first presenter. But as so, we are very excited to share these insights with you today and alongside our expert panel. We encourage you to engage, feel free to ask questions, challenge the ideas about these trends that you'll hear about and how it applies directly to your brand and your market. I'm seeing a lot of people are in this morning. So once again, thank you all so much for being here. Welcome to this morning's webinar. All right, so I am going to invite our first presenter. She is someone who comes with over a decade of experience across the advertising and media landscape. Alicia Mahabir, she brings a strategic, well-rounded perspective to media operations, client management, and marketing leadership. Her career spans multiple facets of the advertising and media ecosystem, including but not limited to traditional and digital advertising agencies, where she developed large expertise in brand strategy, media planning, and media positioning, the country's largest media conglomerate, where she strengthened her ability to manage complex client portfolios and senior stakeholders while shaping data-driven media strategies and multinational brands, where she also played a very key role in execution of high impact, fully integrated campaigns across paid, earned, owned, and media analysis functions, ensuring insights are aligned with client objectives, shaping the narrative of key reports, and translating complex data into clear, actionable intelligence for decision makers. That is quite a mouthful, but needless to say, it's beauty and brains. I am going to invite Alicia Mahabir to do our first presentation. Alicia, it's over to you. Can we get a drum roll, please, to welcome Alicia?
Thank you so much, Christy. And let me share my screen and we can dive right in. All right. So thank you again, Christy, and good morning to everyone. My name is Alicia, and I am here to speak or shape the conversation in terms of media trends and how that affects consumer behavior in 2026. We're going to look at 4 core buckets. We're going to just go over again who Media InSite is. As Christy mentioned, we're celebrating 15 years in the business, and what our current services and solutions are, and how that can help you within your day-to-day operation. We're going to look at the market insights from a very macro level, not just on the Trinidad and Tobago market, but we're going to look at Caribbean-wide. Then we're going to look at what we believe are the top media trends that happened in 2025, and of course, really speak to the positives of that and how that could impact and reflect on you and your day-to-day business in 2026. And then, of course, the last bucket, which is what's next. How are we looking at into 2026, and how can that shape your communication and engagement strategies? So just a little bit about Media InSite. We are the global leaders in Caribbean media intelligence. We monitor, or we like to say we monitor the most Caribbean content, and we find new and innovative ways to monitor, measure, and analyze paid, earned, shared, and owned media. We are proud members of AMEC and FEBEC. AMEC, of course, is the Association for Measurement and Evaluation of Communication. It's the world's largest media intelligence and insights professional body. And of course, FEBEC represents over 120 corporate members across 50 countries, and those members specialize in global enterprise scale solutions in media monitoring and media analysis. Of course, our core offerings are advertising intelligence. These really cater for brands, agencies, and media houses, offering ad placement verification and understanding the competitive advertising landscape. And we do that both for traditional media as well as digital meta advertising data. We also have our media intelligence suite of reports, and those are catered for PR and communication teams, and we really help you manage and measure brand reputation. And of course, our newest service, our media analysis, which caters to executives and C-suites, and it really helps you understand very quickly performance, perception, and impact for better decision making. And even though we just recently launched this product in October, we have gained the trust of some of the Caribbean's biggest brands. And we don't just provide you with the data, but we ensure that you understand the why behind it. This service is highly customizable, and it really depends on your specific client need. For example, we would have had a client come to us and said, hey, we are seeing on our side a drop in sales, and we want to understand what is happening in terms of our online perception and what's happening with the brand on the ground. And of course, we were able to deliver that. We had an agency come to us saying, our client is not interested in traditional media. We need to understand what's happening in that space, and of course, provide recommendations for the clients. We were able to provide a 3-year advertising media analysis report, and that report really showed the hard data behind why traditional media is still very present and prevalent, especially for that client's industry. So enough about us. We dive in deep into the macro market insights. And in terms of the Caribbean advertising landscape, in 2025, we saw a 7% increase in total traditional advertising across Caribbean markets and a 24% in meta advertising. For meta ads, we captured a little over 199K, an increase of 48,000 from 2024. For radio, we captured over 3.5 million radio ads in 2025, an increase of 245K. Of course, television shows the same sort of pattern and increase. And of course, we all know what's happening with the print industry, not just Caribbean-wide, but internationally. And of course, with print newspaper ads, we did see a decrease of a little under 10K. But by and large, the Caribbean advertising landscape is growing in traditional as well as meta. When we shift to earned media, so we're looking at brand mentions, we also saw that pattern maintain itself. So we saw increases across the board for earned media mentions. A noteworthy increase is while ad space decreased from print, brand content increased. So they're not just filling the spaces with AI-generated articles, it's actually brand-related content filling that space. And of course, in terms of brand references on social media, we captured over 706K. So definitely a space that we need to pay attention to in 2026. When we look at advertising, in particular, we're looking at traditional media advertising. We thought this was telling to show 5 countries and the way the media mix within these markets show up. So again, we're looking at country media type share of advertising investment, and this is for traditional media. And we can see at a glance very quickly, certain markets prefer certain media types. So in Barbados and St. Lucia, very radio-centric. Trinidad and Jamaica, balanced distribution, but of course leaning more towards broadcast, whereas Guyana is very print-focused. And when we drill down into the media mix, showing the distribution by month, we can see certain trends happening. So for instance, for St. Lucia, very radio dominant, but we saw peaks up to the 70s for March and April. And of course, we know St. Lucia Jazz is was held in April last year. For Trinidad, again, we see that TV is very dominant. And I want to just make a note that, again, this chart is showcasing investment. So, of course, in Trinidad, TV is a little more expensive than radio. So hence, we're seeing that presence here. Barbados, again, heavily focused on radio investment. And then Guyana, we are actually able to see that print was the dominant media type here. And again, print in Guyana mirrors that of TV in Trinidad, where it is the most expensive advertising form. In terms of top industries, no shockers here. I'm sure everybody in the industry understand who are the shakers and the advertisers that are really spending the big buck. So number 1, we have fast food. Number 2, vitamins, nutrient supplies. Number 3, commercial banks. 4, supermarkets. And of course, from Q4 into Q1, it seems to be supermarket wars in terms of advertising. And then rounding out top 5, we have telecoms with fixed business. We did the same for top advertisers. And again, just looking at who are the top spenders, we have Great Health Works Inc., we have Liberty Caribbean, we have Unicoma, and of course we have Risa here on the panel that can share more about Unicoma and their strategy. We have Yum Brands, of course KFC, within the different regions, and of course rounding it out at number 5 is Digicel. So what were some of the top trends, media trends, that really spoke to us when we looked at 2025? Well, media trend number 1 is that advertising on Meta had different industries had very specific ad style preferences. So looking at January to December 2025, and of course this is primarily for the Trinidad and Tobago market, we're seeing clear correlations between industries and the types of ads placed on the Meta channel. So, for example, retail, of course, no surprise here, favors carousels because it allows you to highlight your product range and, of course, more consumer choice. We see financial and telecoms really focusing on the static images, whereas beverages, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, really favor video. Another trend is that marriage between earned brand perception and advertising. So trend number 2, we're moving away from advertising and we're really going to focus in on the brand perception elements. And we're going to have some fun and focus on real life case studies. For this example, we're looking at the Trinidad and Tobago market and alcoholic beverages. And in September 2025, of course, Trinidadians inside here understand, we got a shocker, I would say, when our finance minister actually implemented some regulatory controls, primarily for the alcohol and the tobacco products. And of course, we see that playing out in media coverage and, of course, online. It didn't take a long time for people to start voicing their opinions on Facebook, on X, and that really made the brands themselves stand up and say, hey, we need to address this. So this is really going to turn into an issue if we don't. And, kudos to Carib and their brand marketing lead, Antron Fort. He really understood very early on that, listen, I need to be out in doing interviews in the media, addressing the problem head on, because of course there was a lot of misinformation coming across in social media. So immediately, he went on 7 p.m. news, he did those interviews, the morning brew, and he not only owned the narrative of, okay, this is why our prices have to be increased. But of course, there were some rumors and again, misinformation on the social media side, which he cleared up, right? So taking in front and really changing and owning the narrative early on. And while that was happening, the second thing that they did well was being consistent in their communication, in their ad spend, as well as their messaging. So this was just a graph pulled for traditional advertising. And Carib is actually the orange line, and we see all their other competitors around them. And what we notice is from September, of course, onward, we see them steadily increasing. Of course, there was a positive upward bump in November. But when you look at the other competitors, they were pretty much steady in their campaign spend. And of course, what really stood out to me was their messaging. And these are actually graphics pulled from their socials, where they actually were very, very deliberate in saying, okay, yes, prices are increased. This is the new price. You can look forward to the brand. So again, owning that narrative and owning the messaging around it. And the direct impact those two events had was that it affected brand sentiment and the perception. So this is a comparative that I did up. Of course, brand A is Carib, brand B is a competitor. And we're able to see very quickly that Carib had less negative sentiment than their competitors around the same brand and price increase. And of course, that was done deliberately from or as a result of both actions taken by Carib very early on. Another case study that we're looking at is out of Jamaica and the telecoms industry. And of course, Hurricane Melissa in October 28th was formed, and October, it hit the Jamaican island of Jamaica, well, as a category 5, right? This was a record hurricane. It was one that we have not seen in a very long time, and the impact was something that we knew was going to be felt years into it. And what Flow Jamaica did was a series of things that strategically placed them for minimal brand reputation risk, right? The first thing that they did was that they held a strategic partnership with Starlink. And of course, we aren't in the Flow war room, right? So we don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure this was something that was implemented as a lesson learned from Hurricane Beryl in 2024, right? They adapted and they understood exactly what was needed. So that's something that they did early on that really impacted their brand reputation. Number two is that their CEO was very active in terms of on the LinkedIn platform primarily. Even before the hurricane hit, their messaging and what they wanted to get across was that we here, we ready, we are putting things in place to ensure that you are okay, and really drilling home that the team is preparing and giving that assurance to customers that we are willing to go the extra mile when this does hit. The third item is actually on the ground. So their VP General Manager, Stephen Prince, was very vocal, very in the forefront when it came to government press conferences and rebuilding the infrastructure, right? He was very open to interviews, and really that also helped with the perception of how Flow was able to rebuild, and of course their leadership and communication. And all that to say, 1, 2, 3, those things collectively helped with their sentiment and their brand reputation. So when we look at July 2024 and the impact of Hurricane Beryl on the brand versus October 2025, Hurricane Melissa and the impact on the brand, we see, of course, out of these negative, disastrous events, the brand reputation still maintained itself and was still strong. We saw an increase in brand engagement and reach. However, what was notable is that we saw shifts from neutral. So if we look at 2024, 55%, and those neutral comments were turned into positive, right? So we see positive growing to 61%. We also saw a huge decrease in negative sentiment, so from 17% to 10%. And this suggests that the public response, and of course, because of their communication styles and their actions, there was a greater confidence in the brand after these events. So what's next for 2026? Coming out of 2025, we realize that things are moving and things are shaping. In 2026, the global advertising industry is set to be a US estimated revenue of $1 trillion. And in order for the Caribbean to really have impact in that, we have to really look at shifting media landscapes, bringing out braver and more bolder advertising experiments. And in saying that, we have to look at new avenues. So this is a case study, and I see Lonsdale is here. This is a case study that I saw Lonsdale post on LinkedIn. I urge you to go and check it out because it's more detail over there. And what they basically did was look at new avenues to reach a Gen Z market. Of course, we've seen from traditional media data that radio is still king. However, there are 128 plus trainees on Spotify. 118 of those have free accounts, so they are listening when ads are played. And what Lonsdale did is that they had a TKR Take Win promotion that really opened itself up to a new market, right? In total, it reached 228,000 different Gen Z listeners, and persons were actually able to hear the ad every 3 times on average. Now, this is quantifiable data, right? And this just opens up to new audiences and, again, a new way of interacting with your audience. Looking at UTC again as an example, it's not really a new avenue, but before a couple of years ago, everybody saw TikTok as a fad platform, right? No real staying power, and corporate TNT especially was a bit hesitant to jump onto TikTok and TikTok Spaces. But looking at UTC, they started their very first TikTok video in March 2028. And again, this is a new audience, a younger audience, and their 4 highest viewed videos still relate to the core brand, right? It's about storytelling and educational content. They're not out there doing dances and crazy challenge videos. It's still very much on brand. And a little fun fact, as of January 2026, Media Insight has now have the capability of actually monitoring TikTok throughout the Caribbean. So definitely something to look into for 2026. And these 2 other avenues, I want to say, I think LaShawn and Risa could really elaborate a little more on this. Again, looking at the Spotify example and the Gen Z audience, more personalized customer experiences are something that we need to really develop in and go bold about in 2026. My niece looks forward to this every year, and it's something that really feels like your own, right? And you really do build brand loyalty when you have a more personalized customer experience. And then the last thing that I think we need to really look at is turning cultural movements into consumer attention, right? In a classy, creative way. So just using the Trinidad and Tobago market for an example, of course, January, we were hit with licensing officers all over Trinidad and Tobago. 1,700 tickets in 6 days. We had a coconut vendor getting $19,000 in tickets in just one sitting, right? And of course, it's a huge talking point. Licensing lines were long. People were going from the night before just to line up. And we saw Island Finance actually taking that. Now, I'm not sure if this is actually Island Finance, but if it wasn't, definitely it should be. Really taking that into consideration and putting out a graphic on social. Listen, of course, we know this is something, a talking point right now. Ticket fines, you could come to us, we can give you the loan for that, right? And it actually gained a lot of attention on TikTok. So turning cultural moments into attention for your brand will be something that, resonates a little more with the user instead of just selling, selling, selling. Right? And that is it on my end. I hope you were able to get some sort of data insights from the presentation. And of course, I'll be open to any questions that you have coming forward. Christy, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And can we get a virtual drum roll for Alicia? Virtual round of applause, of course. Thank you so much. Such insightful information. I particularly enjoyed the breakdown of the media types in the various countries. I think sometimes we often are not aware in terms of which media type is king or queen in each island. And so it's very interesting to see that Guyana is still much very focused on newspaper, and Barbados is still heavy in radio advertising as compared to Trinidad, which sees television as the major contributor for advertising. So, on that note, I am going to ask um, any questions for Alicia. But Alicia, I know you are going. We're going to keep you for the panel discussion as well. But any questions so far? I'm seeing someone says that the ad was fake. It was not from Island Finance, but they should have ran with it for sure. And I agree. Again, touching on the cultural aspect of the advertising that we've seen so much in Trinidad and Tobago. All right. So thank you so much, Alicia, but do not run anywhere. We're going to keep you for the panel discussion. Before we do that, I know we do have a poll to add to our chat group. So if we can just put the poll in the chat. And in the meantime, let me say quick good morning and hello to everyone who has joined us so far. From our team, we have also let me see. I'm seeing Yui is on, Rand Credit Union. All right, and so the poll is on the screen here. So which channel had the biggest impact on your Q4 campaigns in 2025? And this is your opportunity to tell us which channel had the biggest impact on your Q4 campaigns. Of course, we'll give you the results at the end of the session where we look at all the results. All right, so I'm seeing that someone has a question here. Will the presentation be available afterwards? Yes, certainly it will be available afterwards. All right. I think it's a good time for me to bring on our panelists as well. So our first panelist is Risa Lessie. And of course, Risa is the regional MarTech lead at Unicoma Group Caribbean. She has almost 20 years experience in marketing and business. She is an experienced MarTech leader, driving digital transformation throughout the blend of the Caribbean for creativity, communication, and data-driven strategies. And as a regional MarTech lead for the Caribbean, she is customer focused. Her goal is to deliver seamless and personalized experiences that build genuine and lasting connections between the company and its customers. So, welcome, Risa.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thanks for having me.
You are most welcome. And before I ask you to introduce yourself quickly, let me just introduce our second panelist, LaShawn Ramden. She is the Digital Marketing Director and Sales Professional at Ramden Consultancy. Of course, LaShawn is a digital and sales professional who works with top-tier companies and entrepreneurs to help them grow their brand in a digital landscape. And after spending 19 plus years in the sales and marketing industry, she knows what truly drives conversations and builds customer loyalty. It's how well you connect with your audience. And LaShawn conducts training on various topics of the landscape, the digital landscape that is, such as social media management, data analytics, digital strategy, and data-driven decisions making. So she has completed her training for many diverse organizations locally, regionally, and LaShawn is also the president of the Public Relations Association of Trinidad and Tobago, or PRAT, here in TNT. Welcome, LaShawn.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Christy. Welcome. Thank you.
All right, you're most welcome. I think we have the poll. Are we going to leave the poll till the end? We can probably do that, and we'll share the results at the end of the session. All right, we do have a question coming in, but before we do that, I'm going to ask Risa to just say a brief couple of words to introduce yourself to those of us who may not necessarily be so familiar with you. Just share a brief couple of words.
Sure, well, Christy, I thought you did a fantastic job introducing me, but what I can say is that I have about 20 years or so across the marketing, particularly the digital marketing and the CRM space. in everything I do, every decision that I make, especially at the Unicoma Group, it's about putting the customer in the front seat in all of our marketing and our communication strategies. The Unicoma Group is home to brands that you know and love, such as Courts, the Ashley Furniture Home Store in Guyana, Trinidad, Jamaica, and Aruba, as well as Quartz Optical and Quartz Ready Cash in some territories. So that's just a little bit more about me, but I think you did a fantastic job introducing me.
Thank you so much, Risa. And LaShawn, I'm going to ask you to just give us a few brief words about yourself,
Oh, okay. As Risa said, you did a good job. So the only thing I can add to it is that for me, data should be the top thing that leads your decision making in any of the channels that you're looking to advertise. And I think that that's where you would be able to see or best understand where your spend should be, how much you should spend, and even if it's worth your time.
Thank you so much. We have a question coming in, and I want to open by asking, because Alicia touched on this, and I feel like it's really something that we see so much here in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, we do have participants from throughout the region joining us. I think I saw Guyana, Barbados. So good morning to you guys as well. But I want to jump into the cultural and behavioral shift of advertising, and how does global events such as, let's say, Christmas or Black Friday, or even something that is trending, how does that shape consumer media behavior here in Trinidad and Tobago? If I can start with you, LaShawn.
Sure. Black Friday, I have an issue with that because it is not a cultural thing really for us. And while a lot of brands like to hop on the trend, your consumers, your customers, even your potential customers know when you're basically trying to fake it to make it. And it comes off disingenuous because all the time you're having sales, then Black Friday roll around, you feel pressured to be part of this trend. So you don't really give them a sale. They know what your prices were before. So they're not seeing any real value shopping with you during that time unless the prices that you're advertising making sense to their pocket. And this is not only in Trinidad, but I would say regionally, because there are a lot of customers and businesses regionally trying to jump on that trend. While what we should be doing here, meaning here as in the Caribbean, is, sticking to what works best for us. Boxing Day sale, that is, that is part of our culture. We know what that is. Black Friday sale, leave it for North America. If you're genuine in your approach and your marketing, your consumers and your customers are going to know that that is genuine, and they would, they would support. That's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to pose the same question to you, Risa, in terms of the linkage between what we see international advertisers may do and regional advertisers, like LaShawn rightly put it, jumping on trends that we may not necessarily connect with. Your thoughts on that from your perspective?
Well, what I will say is that Black Friday is certainly not for everyone. I was browsing on social media and I saw Black Friday deals at the grocery store or a plant shop having Black Friday deals.
Yes.
And you're kind of like, well, that not really making sense to me. So I think that if you as a brand you want to use Black Friday as an opportunity to help you to move your product and offer deep discounts, you really have to think about whether it works for you. For the Quartz brand, it is something that connects for us and connects with our users. Black Friday actually has a huge reception across the region. Guyana is one such market that you always see year over year a huge impact on Black Friday. Trinidad, of course, St. Lucia. But Black Friday campaigns, I think you really have to understand if your brand fits with what the campaign is supposed to be. It's certainly not for everyone.
All right, thank you so much. And I think that brings me to the other question in terms of authenticity, remaining true to your brand and your industry across the region. How have we seen some advertisers lose themselves in certain advertising strategies just to kind of be caught up in trends?
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Risa.
LaShawn Vegan, digital marketing work with some brands. I'd love to hear your view, please.
All right. So I get some requests that sometimes I'll be like, you have already an authentic way that people would, engage with your brand. So like what Risa said in terms of Black Friday, that works for courts because you can see an actual difference in price from what they regularly offer to what is offered in Black Friday. So in terms of that, yes, it works for them, absolutely. But in terms, it have certain things that we don't, or I would say advertisers, businesses, small businesses especially, you don't need to go there. You could stay off that road and stick to what works with your clientele. So, like in Trinidad, we most of us know that Diwali is certainly a thing. So definitely sales around Diwali time, it's going to hit the mark because that is part of our culture and we understand it best. But Halloween, not really. Why we going there? It have All Saints and All Souls. I don't even know how we would even sell that, but it is very that holiday is niche. So you trying to force yourself into something that is niche and does not resonate with your audience is going to give them pause in how it is they view you, and you don't want that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I also feel like sometimes, because the TikTok platform is predominantly audio based and trend based, sometimes companies jump on trends where there's not necessarily an alignment. And in that, I think they sometimes lose themselves. Alicia, in your presentation, that case study you showed us with UTC, you're not seeing any of their reps doing any dance or jumping on any trends like this martial recording. You're not going to see UTC using that in their video, but they have done a really good job in understanding their role as an institution to empower and educate, and using the TikTok platform in that way, I think is fantastic. So I think it's important for brands to understand what they stand for and to use the platform to communicate just that. Trends are not for everyone, and you can end up losing yourself by just jumping on any and every trend.
Agreed.
Thank you so much for that. And I see Nicole Huggins is agreeing with us here when she says Black Friday isn't for everyone. It only makes sense if your products are competing directly with products available online, because those deals in the US have long been part of our Caribbean psyche, even before there was online shopping. And she says Halloween makes no sense. All right, let me just give you the results of the poll while we're here one time. So we asked the question of which channel had the biggest impact on your Q4 campaigns in 2025. And the majority of you said social media. And of course, I want to focus on that in my next question. So we had 67% saying social media, TV and radio 10%, print and news 10%, and not sure, we didn't track it closely, that is 13%. Now, that's interesting that you didn't track it closely. Now, how important is it to track your advertising campaigns? And we're going to pose this to you, Risa, in terms of the tracking closely, and how important is it for us to, or for the advertisers to monitor your campaigns?
I would say it's critical because if you don't know where your consumers are and how they're interacting and where you can best reach them, you're going to end up wasting a lot of money. And business is about making profit. So you don't want to just be spending money wildly and hoping that, hey, I'm going to put out this TV ad and hope it reaches the right person. So understanding where consumers are engaging, how they are engaging, and how much it takes in terms of the engagement to convert people. I think it's very critical that you track. Sometimes it might be difficult for you as a small business to track everything. So using monitoring services, whether it's services like Media, InSite, of course, or even free tools that are available like Google Trends, I think that can help to really contextualize what people are looking for, where they're looking for it, and when. So it's a huge part and a critical part of a strategy.
And LaShawn, your thoughts on the importance of tracking your ads and your campaigns?
If you're not tracking, you're wasting time. That's basically it. You're wasting time and you're wasting money, just as Risa said. And I would say, okay, so most businesses have a website, and if you're in retail, you should be tracking the clicks that come in from your website. Did you set up conversions on your website so you know what is the conversion rate when they go to your sales page or whatever it is that you're trying to convert them to? Then that helps you understand what is the demographic of the people that click in, so you could make your ads to appeal to those people. Tracking is as Risa said, it's critical, it's essential. And I hope that people are actually doing it, and that, you go and pelt everything against a wall and hope to see what sticks. That is not viable.
I love the analogy you used just now. We have a question coming in here, and I believe this is directed to Alicia. So the question says, so to stand out in the advertising landscape, what would be the best media to choose, and how can Media InSite help with that? Alicia?
So that's a really good question. And it really depends, right? What is the brand? What is your brand? What are you selling? Who your audience is? But for the most part, Media InSite can help you, as LaShawn said, give you the data behind what works and what doesn't work. We've seen traditionally where, yes, there is traditional media still in the mix, but a lot of brands are gravitating to digital. Of course, you can quantify on digital, you can niche down on digital, but having a mix of both traditional and digital can really help your brand. And again, it depends on what you're selling and who you're selling to. Media InSite can help because, as I mentioned before, we actually track both advertising on traditional media as well as meta platforms. And we have a couple new innovative solutions coming by the end of 2026. So we can give you right down to making sure that the ads that you've placed on traditional are being run according to the media house and according to your approved schedule. And we can also give you the competitive landscape, right? Not just what your brand is doing, but what your competitors are doing, how they're shifting their strategies mid-campaign, right? All that data is at literally your fingertips when you sign on with us. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And I think, yes, that was a very well-rounded answer. I want to pose the next question in terms of, because you touched on the point of personalized customer experiences. And I want to bring in the topic of AI just a little bit to include that here. So how can AI-driven recommendations shape consumer decision making going forward in 2026? Or have we already seen that happening? And to what extent?
Yeah, so I have noticed the AI recommendations in terms of like your ChatGPT, your Gemini, etc. I think that has started to play a big role in the Caribbean. It's definitely taken off in more developed markets. But I mean, people are moving away from using Google, and they have the ChatGPT app on their phone and they may ask, well, where I could buy this? And sometimes ChatGPT will give you recommendations of where you can go, but they're also providing links, right? So that's the interesting thing. And again, on the topic of tracking, if you don't have tracking set up on your website, or you're not using the tracking set up on your website, you're not going to know or understand how much traffic is actually coming from AI tools such as ChatGPT. And I've actually started to see some of those links, because with everything you click from ChatGPT, at the end, that kind of gibberish at the end with the
Yeah.
question mark, ChatGPT, source, UTM, etc. ChatGPT is sending those links with those tracking codes, so you are able to actually see how much traffic is coming in. So I think it's going to be an important strategy for businesses that have e-commerce sites, or even have general websites that are informational, um, to ensure that their tracking is set up and that they are optimizing their content, whether it's through widgets or the metadata in their content, to be absorbed into GPT, so that when people are asking these questions, the recommendations come up and they get pointed in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Risa. LaShawn, your thoughts?
I have nothing to add there because Risa hit that nail on the head. Definitely, I am encouraged when it is I do searches and I get some local companies or regional companies as the source link from chat, or especially Gemini, because Gemini would be more prone to pulling that, since most people use Chrome as the as their internet browser. So AI and Chrome are all Google products. So it tends to pull from those users. So I am encouraged when I see local and regional companies showing up in the search. So and yeah, it is important that we set up Google tags on our websites, have conversions for clicks and such. I just saw a question pop up that was asking about, yeah, you go with that, Christy.
Yes. So and thank you so much, LaShawn. We have a question coming in from Sharice Green, and she says, don't you think AI takes away the creativity aspect? And what about the people whose jobs are based off of their creativity, but no one wants to hire them anymore because AI is more accessible? And this is a fully loaded question. It is something that I think, many people share different perspectives on this, but I'm going to ask, since you've brought it up, LaShawn, your thoughts on it as you're here at one time.
All right. My opinion on that. AI is still all right. So just to be clear, AI has been around for years. It is just now accessible to everybody, right? So it's nothing that is actually new. It has been around for years. The accessibility is the issue. Now everybody have it. It's basically on your phone. Teenagers have it. In terms of creativity, you're still going to get people that look like they have 6 fingers on one hand with AI use of a generative tool if you don't know how to prompt properly. I understand the concern for creatives. However, I, as a digital marketer, hate, and I know hate is a strong word, but hate it is, to see full campaigns with only AI. It annoys me to no end. I prefer, and I have always encouraged my customers to have a blend of both. So if it is you're going to do a campaign and the person floating out in space, let it be a human model that is the person, and space, let AI create that, because you know what I look like anyway. So a marriage of the two has always worked. I will bring to your attention, Givenchy did a recent campaign and the models were in unusual spaces. That's the best way I could put it. Unusual spaces. It was definitely AI generated, but the clothing, Givenchy, the models, human, a marriage of both, and the chef's kiss was that campaign. So creatives need to find a way and show their potential customers and clientele that a marriage of both would serve you best, because it have an ad, a billboard on the highway when I go home, and all the people, their face look stretch out and know it's AI. I just be like, when I head in there, I'd be like this, because I just don't want to see it. It's annoying.
Thank you so much, LaShawn. Risa, your thoughts on the topic at hand? Are we
I think
encouraging the marriage, or are we looking at it separately?
I agree with LaShawn, and I think the concern is a valid one, especially if it is you're looking at it through the lens of things that you've already known and habits you're already accustomed to. What I think AI does is it gives us an opportunity to look at things from a different angle. And I saw the beginning of someone's comment saying that we should use AI as a tool. And I think that's exactly what it is. AI is not an independent thinker. It's a tool for us to increase our agility, to increase our ability to do amazing things. So I personally, and I could only talk for myself, I see AI as it is right now as an ally. Do I think it possesses a threat? Of course. If we don't speak about AI and ethics in the same sentence, I think we open up ourselves to a world where you just it's the wild wild west, right? But I don't think that AI in itself should be viewed as a threat. I really think it's a tool to help us to just be better, be faster, and to free up the mental load. Sometimes you have all of this data in front of you, or you have a project due from an artist perspective, due in 5 minutes. I mean, how long is it going to take you to create something? Whereas, with AI, it can definitely help you to create much, much quicker and help you to storyboard as well. So that's my take.
Thank you
I
so much.
love that, Lisa, because you see the whole crunching data. I put in, drop that there. You do that. I do. You do that. That is definitely a great use of AI.
So going forward, we're gonna look at AI as an ally, as a friend, as a partner, as opposed to the enemy. With ethics, right? And I'm seeing some comments in the chat. Bring back real people in ads. Something you touched on, LaShawn. Agreed, it lacks authenticity to connect with the audience, and that was actually going to be my part. One question of the topic on AI in terms of connecting with the audience, because sometimes we see ads that are just definitely not aligned with the brand in terms of the whether it's a a facial of a face, whether it's the sceneries, it's just not related. So in terms of connecting with the authenticity, the audience rather. So Anita is saying that she agrees and it lacks the authenticity to connect with the audience. Donna is saying that AI should be used as a tool and it should not take away the human element and skill set. And I think you touched on that, LaShawn, in terms of having that marriage between both the human aspect and the AI aspect of things. Nicholas is also saying, yes, it's a tool. Some people abuse it.
Yeah.
And Anita is also saying, even with data, if you don't have the understanding of the models in the background and context, AI may not always be accurate. Selena here is saying, want to also emphasize what was also said, that how you will set yourself apart is your ability to write effective prompts. And let's for a minute or so, let's touch on the effective prompts and how critical is that in terms of a campaign. LaShawn?
Okay, so when you think of a prompt, what I like to tell people that have been training in terms of prompt engineering, and I'll bring it down to even like my 16-year-old, right? I would tell him, pretend you're explaining it to a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old and give it all the information. Don't just say, give me a marketing campaign to sell plants. What type of plants? What's the season you're selling any plants for? Give it information. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you give it good, rich context, that is what you're going to get back. And it's going to be specific to the use that you want it for, and not just some generic thing that 3, 4, 5, 10 people going and had the same thing. Because again, everybody have access to this tool. So yeah. I seen somebody saying here they have to be intentional. So I agree with that completely. Christy, on mute.
Yes, it would be very helpful if I unmute myself. I was just reading the comment where Matthew says that he is found providing context to the prompt generates better results and you have to be intentional, which brings me to my next question. But before I do so, I wanted to get Risa's take on the prompts and how important it is to get the prompts accurate.
I mean, I think LaShawn covered it. I could not have said it any better. It's like you have to give context. This is what you explain to a 3-year-old. You have to let it know. With the plant example, I mean, I thought that was such a lovely example. I'm going to borrow that the next time. You have to give that context. So down to the season, down to the audience. Otherwise, you're not going to get a very good result. And when you actually execute, if you're taking it as is and you execute, you're going to miss the mark.
Thank you so much, Risa. And just going back to the point that Matthew made in terms of you have to be intentional, I wanted to pose this question to LaShawn because I think she brought it up in an earlier conversation in terms of exploring intentional campaign. And she would have used the example of Flavor at the Savannah. So LaShawn, I particularly enjoy that, maybe because I've had firsthand experience in going to Flavor and just appreciating everything that has been done to just showcase and transform the Savannah into what it is, and the importance of having that, especially as our webinar is touching on the Carnival campaigns. What is the importance of intentional campaigning, and how have we seen it being applied so far?
Okay, so for our regional people, Flavor is actually a food village that is in the Savannah right now for Carnival. Before, it was a food strip that was there. It had, various people there with the little tents. It didn't really have a overarching brand to the area. So now it has been upgraded. Very nice, lovely logo, and all under the brand of Flavor Village. So for Trinidadians, and I would dare say for people in the Caribbean, food is not just sustenance, it is a cultural language. In Trinidad and Tobago, food is a cultural language for us, right? And for marketers, it is meaningful. You know, how we narrate, how we connect, how we celebrate and share our identity is usually through food. We remember when we used to say Trinidad is a multicultural society. I used to love that growing up. That is us with food. Every single creed and race have some sort of food that they do well and we love. So even if you go to Guyana, must try a pepper pot. Jamaica, jerk chicken, because the jerk chicken in Trinidad is not it. Right? Barbados, flying fish. It speaks to us. So that is what flavor is at the savannah. So the activation of this area is, I think it is quite intentional and I love it, right? It features dozens of food and beverage vendors, and it basically changed that traditional social space into a living, walking exhibition of TNT's cultural identity. And that is the winning point there. So the food, it attracts crowds, right? But this is where the data set will come in, right? So as marketers, we're thinking what foods attracts the crowds and the experiences that they have. When and how do people interact with the brands in those shared spaces? Well, I hope that that's data they're capturing, but I could only pray. What consumers are willing to spend the time and money on? Because it was a big argument. People not going to the Carnival Village, everybody going to the food part. Not really, because I need food before I go over by the Carnival Village. So I see it as, it is not one over the other, right? Already down there going to get food, I going over by the Carnival Village to see what's going on because it is part of our culture. So instead of us separating it, that food village, it literally makes the food shareable, sociable, and I would say engagement ready for content, for media, and for social campaigns. And that I think is the sweet point in flavor. And it's quite intentional. I do love what they did, and I hope that they keep it all year through.
Thank you so much, LaShawn. If I can just get Risa's comments on that, particularly centered around Unicoma's, their brands and their advertising campaigns in terms of intentional advertising and marketing. Your thoughts?
I mean, if you're not intentional, then you're not making a connection. And marketing is all about making a connection with your audience. Just taking up on something that you said that I thought was really beautiful, LaShawn, is food is a cultural experience. And the execution and the understanding of that, and as such the application, that's one of the best campaigns I've seen in the carnival space in a very, very long time. So it's really important to be intentional, know who you're speaking to in order to develop your campaign and connect with audiences. And when that's done right, you get something as magical as what flavor is. And I'll tell you, like I tried to go to the Flavor Village, underestimating, not doing my market research. I hit Savannah and it's a set of traffic. I had to park by the US Embassy to get there. And I still haven't made it inside, but I'm going to try again today. And I think that effect is because of the intentionality behind the marketing strategy.
Thank you so much, Risa.
I'll let you know, LaShawn, if I get in today.
All right.
All right, I want to shift the conversation just a little in terms of LaShawn, in your capacity as the president of Pratt. How are you all using data as a part of your strategy to navigate the conversations for brand reputation? Because, I mean, we all know the importance of brand reputation. So how are we using the data to kind of shape that in Q1 particularly?
Well, similar to what Media Insights, what you all do in terms of when you have webinars and you ask polls and that kind of stuff, because all of those things are forms of data collection. We at Pratt usually do that. So we would have maybe about 4 events during the year, and we make sure and ask questions and also ask directly to our members, since it is a membership organization, what it is, what are their struggles, what it is that they need help with, what is a win for them. And we have gotten so many requests in terms of crisis communications that it's not funny. So we actually looking to have a session on crisis comms this quarter, because when you look at when crisis happens, one, you want to protect your brand, protect what's left, because the crisis already give you a dent. So you're trying to protect what's left. You're trying to be authentic. And you need to monitor who, what, when, where, why, how that crisis affected your brand. So Media Insights would be able to help track those things in terms of real-time analytics and that kind of stuff. So that is, that is really important. And I have been pushing, for communications professionals to look at and invest in Media Insights platforms for their companies, because when a crisis happens, you don't want to now be scrambling about, definitely being proactive. But when it happens, you need to already have had a plan in place and know where you're getting my data. You can't want to try and figure that out when it is the crisis happen. So definitely, data is definitely like the 100% thing that you need when a crisis hits. So you already have your plan in place, and it's time to execute that plan with data in hand to lead the decision making.
Thank you so much, LaShawn. Risa, your comments on that.
So market research is a pillar in the way that we approach advertising at Unicoma. We keep a very close eye to industry trends, of course, our own financial data, and we apply that to our marketing campaigns. I can give an example. In Trinidad and in Jamaica, and I think we're rolling out right now in the OECS, we launched a campaign called Courts is My Store. Courts is the largest FAE retailer in the region in every country that we operate. So understanding that, we had to survey our customers to find out how they feel, why they like shopping with us. And the Courts is My Store campaign really focuses on things that customers actually say, and the talents that we use in the advertising were actual customers. Nice. So if you go to the our social media pages in those territories that I mentioned, those are not models, they're not paid models, those are our actual customers. And those are things that they actually said. And we would not have known that if we did not prioritize research and understanding our value and what it is we bring to customers. So that's one of the ways that we use data. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Risa. And I want to bring in Alicia on this question as well, in terms of from Media Insights perspective. And that was not a paid advertisement from LaShawn, nor Risa, by the way. Alicia, if I can just engage your thoughts on this topic as well.
Well,
In
I
terms
think
of you are the one who is responsible for curating all the reports and naturally letting the clients know how they are performing, not just on their performance, but the competitor level as well.
yeah, exactly, Christy. And just to touch on something LaShawn had said, in a time of crisis, you don't want to be scrambling for the data, right? And looking at Sharon's comment, this is really making the point of being proactive, not just in your communication, your messaging, your strategies, but also on the data front, right? So real-time monitoring, not just when you need it, but you have a baseline to understand, okay, this is what happened before. And you can also look at how your competitors actually navigate the industry as well. So, I mean, I'm all for monitoring on a proactive and not a reactive basis. And of course, as Risa would have mentioned in her field, the market and focus group insight, married with internal data, married with media insights data, is really going to give you a holistic view that is going to really impact your decision making going forward. And I think it's not just looking at one subset of data, but marrying all different data sets and really getting the full picture.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And my final question before we wrap things up, because I'm seeing we're almost out of time. I have to ask, and I want to get LaShawn's take on this from a PR perspective, I would say as well. What is one of the campaign strategies that we're leaving in 2025, and what couldn't we look forward to in terms of the media format that you think will dominate in 2026? What are we leaving and what can we look forward to?
All right, video. If you're not making video, you're not seeing anything. Statics would only take you so far, right? And with that, storytelling. Please don't just do video for doing video's sake. It has to tell a story. It has to resonate in some sort of emotional way. And that is the trend I see for the entirety of 2026. And why? Every single social media platform, and especially the number one, TikTok. TikTok don't have any kind of statics. It is all video based. And even when people try and do those little carousel things, it does not hit the mark. So do good video, tell a story behind it, and you're going to be winning.
Thank you, LaShawn. And Risa, what can we expect? What are your thoughts in terms of what are we leaving in 2025 and what do you think will dominate in 2026?
So I want to elaborate a little bit on videos, because I feel like a lot of brands get that video is important and they become hyper focused on total views. What I would say they need to leave in the last year is looking at views as just a whole. I think you have to understand who is viewing, right? Because if you're not connecting with the right audience, again, you're not having an impact. So going into 2026, take the focus off of many videos and total views, and do meaningful content that really resonates. The TikTok platform, as Alicia and both Alicia and LaShawn said, that continues to grow in our region, particularly Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana. It's a little bit slower in territories like Barbados and the OECS. Not saying that it's not significant and we're not seeing growth, but it's biggest in those territories that I mentioned. Something that I think we tend to overlook is messaging. WhatsApp, everybody uses WhatsApp. From your nanan to your 5-year-old on WhatsApp, right? The family group. And WhatsApp recently launched something called WhatsApp channels, which can be found in your status section. WhatsApp channels are growing significantly, and it's continuously under development by the WhatsApp platform. Start now. If you don't have a WhatsApp channel, start now, because that's where people spend most of their time, whether they're messaging their family, whether they're messaging friends. I'm sure you have a WhatsApp group for your work colleagues as well, right? So having a presence there and developing your voice and exploring it, I think it's going to be something big for the next year. We see some brands do it very well. Of course, the Unicoma brands, we are on WhatsApp. You can find us just by searching. But also, I find the groceries, Massey stores in particular, they are doing a phenomenal job using their WhatsApp channel. So that's also something that I think, if you have not already explored, it's something that you definitely get familiar with.
Thank you so much, Risa. And we are almost out of time. Matthew says no. Kieran is asking WhatsApp meaning the communities on WhatsApp. So yeah, there's the channels, WhatsApp channels there. All right. So before we wrap things up, I'm going to ask you your closing comments in terms of the Q4 holiday season to Carnival, the media trends that shape consumer behavior in 2026. Your closing comments. LaShawn?
I would say that just three things: be intentional, have data, meaningful data, as a touch point for everything within your organization. If you have a webman, a master, or you're a small business and you doing your own website and such, just go Google how to add a Google tag, how to do conversions, and teach yourself it. There are a bunch of videos on YouTube that can take you. Google has a whole channel there that could take you step by step on how to get these things done. So being intentional, tracking your data, track it. It's going to take you some time, but it's going to be so worth it. And make sure and tell good stories. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you will see it, but on Meta, it is always have these little short videos with some sort of drama. It's like a Young and Restless, but in a mini form. That industry is a $1 billion industry. A $1 billion industry. And it is literally only about storytelling. So if they could do those short form videos forever scrolling and they encouraging you to pay $1 to see the next set, it's a $1 billion industry. Storytelling is going to be a superpower.
Thank you so much, LaShawn. And Risa, before we wrap things up, your final comments, please.
I mean, I'm going to echo some of what LaShawn said. I think Q4 is a very active period for retail. So it's about offers, and deals. Q1 is a little bit more quiet. And what we know about consumers, especially with everything going on with the economy, political factors, etc., consumers are a lot more intentional about their spending. So they're prioritizing how they spend their money. So you have to stay top of mind, and you have to build relationships with consumers so that when they are ready to make that purchasing decision, you are first. And the only way to do that is through storytelling. And storytelling doesn't mean that you have to do a drama episode like the YouTube shorts and whatnot, but think about what it means to storytell for your brand. Are you educating, right? Are you entertaining? Are you informing? Are you giving industry news? And have your video content focus in that way.
Thank you so very much. Alicia, before we go, just your closing comments, please.
Sure. Of course, I just want to echo what Risa and LaShawn would have said. Going into 2026, I want us to really pay attention, not just to the advertising and paid or just earned media, but looking at that marriage and seeing how, online brand perception shapes strategy, shapes digital rollout, that sort of thing. So again, our media analysis product really is fine-tuned for client need and is really going to help you understand not just perception, not just paid strategy, but understand the impact of both paid and owned together. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And of course, Alicia is the driving force behind all our media analysis reports. And just to kind of quote what LaShawn said and drive the point home in terms of tracking it. So yes, track it, but also analyze it. And that's where Alicia's role as media analyst comes in very much. So thank you, ladies, for such an engaging and very insightful conversation. I know we are out of time, but I'm going to ask Joel, who's all the way in Grenada, to give us closing remarks, please.
Good morning again, everyone, and thank you for joining. Those who on the call that doesn't know me, I am the Sales and Marketing Manager here at Media InSite, and it has been indeed a pleasure having you guys here with us this morning. So we wanted to host this webinar at Media InSite, not just to share data, but to show you how to guide with the data in smarter decisions. And of course, telling you your own brand story. So this session was designed not only for brands preparing for Carnival, but for the entire region, strategically positioning themselves and how to capture your brand narrative with the media and intelligence, and of course, moving insights to actions. So on behalf of the Media InSite team, I would like to sincerely thank everyone for attending this session this morning. Your presence and engagement and thoughtful attention really enforced this conversation that we really wanted to do and have today. A special thanks to our team. So we had Alicia Mahabir, Risa Lessie, and LaShawn. Of course, your insights and expertise, the regional perspectives, and practical experience really guided us this morning. Risa, I like when you say, your NNN has to be on everybody, that has to be on WhatsApp, It is really engaging and knowing that, we really have to try to get everyone into the data world. Of course, thank you to our host and moderator, Christy Gallixing, leading the discussions with clarity and, of course, carrying these conversations for us today. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Jolene. Nobody is seeing her to see her. She's always working hard in the background. Our marketing executives, whose dedications we could not have done this webinar without you. And of course, to our CEO, Miss Alison Dimas. I'm not sure if she would have been able to make it this morning, but she gives her thank you because, we continue to work closely together to see this vision, our purpose. And of course, with the new innovations coming on board, we're definitely going to show you what Media InSite has in store as we are celebrating 15 years of anniversary on the 1st of July, 2026. So, all our celebration starts from now. So you're going to see different things rolling out from us. So please stay tuned. We have some exciting things for the rest of the year. And of course, finally, thank you for everyone who has logged on today. We know our staff members have joined us as well, taking the time out of their busy schedules. Thank you as well. And we welcome any questions so that I know the time was very short. So if you have any questions at all, please send them to us. We'll be happy to send them to our panelists and then we will get them straight over to you. So thank you again for connecting with us, supporting our brand, and of course, making informed decision, strategic media partners. And of course, we want everyone to strive in this Q1 and beyond. So thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Joel. And this is where we say bye Bye for now. Until next time, in the words of LaShawn Ramden, track it. Let's help you track it. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.